and welcome back. For those of you that have been watching my channel for some time, you know that recording drums is not only a passion, but a necessity for the various types of work I do on a weekly and almost daily basis. Over the years, I've learned a lot about recording, specifically around drums, and I've made a lot of investments in equipment that help me get the various tasks I need done efficiently. Sometimes this is a 2-mic setup for recording demos for my YouTube videos with just an overhead and a bass drum mic, and sometimes this is expanded out a little bit more so I can add a close mic on another drum like a snare or one for my voice. And in some cases, it's setting up 12 to 15 microphones so that I can simultaneously capture close mics on every drum and complement it with rooms, overheads, and other character microphones. I've been asked by a few people over the last few weeks about making investments in home recording equipment and getting started from nothing, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to maybe put together a list at a few different tiers to help you get started. Now, instead of doing this in a good, better, best format, where there might be super budget-friendly options at the beginning and then really expensive high-end equipment at the end, I want to do this in 3 tiers, but based off the quantity of microphones you'll be recording. Like I said before, I do a lot of recording with just 2 microphones because it's quick and easy to set up, and it creates less work for me on the back end in terms of mixing, EQ, and processing. I think this could be a great place for people to start because sometimes less is more, and I think only having 2 microphones puts a lot more importance on you getting a good quality sound from your instrument and your playing. Now, as your skills increase, you're going to find scenarios where you want to add mics, and I thought this would be fun to do in a way where the investments we make on the front end with just a 2-mic setup are microphones we still want to keep, but add to as we grow to 4 or 8 microphones. I do want to keep a budget in mind, and I think there's a lot of options out there that don't cost hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars where you can get really high-end sounding recordings. All right, so we're over here on Sweetwater's homepage, and I want to start off by finding a 2-channel interface that would be a good place to get started. I'm going to try to use equipment that I either own or that I have experience with, and the one that I'd recommend to get started with is a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. I believe this is still the model name. But to me, this is like the industry standard in entry-level recording interfaces. Most people I know have this, and they've been using it ever since, and they're still happy with it. This is like a new redesign of it where they have 1/4-inch inputs on the front, but I believe on the back is where they have the XLR inputs. I currently keep my Focusrite mounted in my desk where I can just plug in a mic for doing voiceover work like this, or for overdub sessions, percussion tracking, things I like to do while working at my desk. It's $200, so, it's not under $100 or something super cheap, but I think this is a quality investment that you can get a lot of work done with. So let's go ahead and add it to the cart and get onto some microphones. So like I was saying, for me, generally a 2-mic setup is 1 overhead microphone and a bass drum microphone. The reason this is a popular setup is because the overhead can capture almost the full kit really well, but the bass drum is a specialized instrument where we could use a microphone that's specifically tailored to capturing the low end, and also with the proximity of a bass drum compared to the rest of the drums and miking it from the top, the bass drum can get lost in the mix with just 1 microphone. So I want to start with an overhead, and the one that I want to talk about is the Audio-Technica AT2020. This is a $100 large diaphragm condenser microphone, and I've been using these since high school. I actually have one right here, but this one is a little different. This is labeled as a Digital Reference DRCX1, and this is a company that is a store brand for Guitar Center, Musician's Friend, and I bought it at a Guitar Center when I was a freshman in high school. But from what I understand, it is almost exactly the same thing as an AT2020, just with different branding on it per Guitar Center's request. For only $100, it sounds pretty good, and it's a good place to get started for a minimal investment. Let's go ahead and add this to the cart, and then I want to move on to a bass drum microphone. So just doing a quick search for bass drum mic, one of the first ones that comes up is the Shure Beta 52. This is a $200 microphone, And again, this is an investment you could make now and probably use for the rest of your musical journey. I bought this microphone when I first got started. I ended up selling it as I've moved on to other microphones. But what I really like about this mic is that it'll work for a wide variety of genres, and it has a pretty neutral sound other than being able to capture the full range of a bass drum really well. A couple of the other options on here would be the Audix D6. This is probably one of the more popular bass drum microphones, and I do own this one. I really love it for live work because it has a pre-EQ'd sound, so it just saves me or the sound guy a bit of time EQing some of those nasty frequencies out. I'm not a huge fan of this for recording because I play a lot of jazz and nuanced styles where I want to have control of the EQ and spectrum of this microphone, and this is a little more tailored to get rid of that on the front end. It's really playing towards a rock pop bass drum sound. If that's your thing and that's the only genre you play, I love this microphone, and it's only $170 compared to $200 for the Beta 52. The one microphone I do want to talk about though is this one here, the SE Electronics V-Kick. Now this microphone is super cool because in my opinion it has the best of both worlds of the Shure and the Audix. I have it right here, and you'll notice on the back that it has these little dip switches, and these are so that you can change the response of it by either having a flat, no pre-EQ'd sound, or putting in some of those boost and cuts at specific ranges like the Audix D6. This is a little more expensive at $220, but for me, the versatility of this microphone makes it a clear winner, and this is the one that I would recommend to people going forward. So if we go ahead and look at our cart here with our two microphones and our interface, it comes in at just a little over $500, which again, I'm sure you could find a setup that would be cheaper than this, but these are quality investments that can last you a long time. And as you grow and add more to your setup, I think you're still going to be very happy with these microphones. So let's fast forward to a few years from now after you bought your two mic setup and you're wanting to add a little bit more to your rig. Now, unfortunately, you are going to have to step up to a different interface because you only had two preamps on that Scarlett 2i2, and now we're looking at adding a couple more microphones to the rig. So going back to Sweetwater here, the next interface I want to talk about is the PreSonus Quantum ES4. Now, this is actually an interface that Sweetwater and PreSonus sent me last year to check out, and I loved it so much that I sold my other 4-channel interface and switched to this exclusively. Now, like I was saying, I have my 2-channel interface mounted in my desk for all the work I do here. So instead of ripping that out when I'm doing 2 mic recordings in my studio, I just use this. It's bus powered, so I don't need to plug it into a power port if I'm doing something quick and can just run off my laptop battery. And it has some app integration for doing headphone mixes, which it has 2 different headphone mixes you can set on here. And overall, it's just pretty simple to use, and it sounds great. This comes in at $330, so again, a bit of investment to make, but it's not as much as buying like a universal audio interface or something in that tier. We're going to go ahead and add this to the cart and move on to microphones. Like I was saying before, I want this video to be a progression as you develop in acquiring recording equipment. So we're going to pretend like you already have an Audio-Technica AT2020 and an SE Electronics V-Kick and not add those to the cart, but just add on to our next step of building our home recording rig. Moving on to mic 3 that we're going to own, one of the most classic microphones of all time, the Shure SM57. I debated putting this mic as number 1 for the 2-channel interface because even though a cardioid dynamic instrument microphone like this isn't ideal for an overhead drum sound or a kick drum, you can do just about anything with this microphone. And no matter where you go in life for live sound or recording, you're going to see Shure SM57s all over the place. A lot of recording studios probably have 10 of these microphones lying around because they are so utilitarian and they can be used for almost anything. You can use it on vocals, you can use it on guitar amps, you can use it on acoustic guitars, you can use it on a saxophone, a trumpet, all sorts of drums, and anything else you can imagine. An SM57 can probably record a high quality audio signal of that application. This microphone is only $100. I bought an SM57 when I was in middle school from my local record store that sold professional audio equipment, and I still use that one today on my snare drum. So we've added that to our cart. The main application is probably going to be adding a snare drum mic, but as we get to a fourth microphone, the next one might surprise you, and that is going to be adding a second Audio-Technica AT2020 to our mic locker. So for me, when I'm using two mics, it's overhead and kick. When I get to four microphones, the snare is probably the next one I want to add third, but the fourth microphone is adding another overhead to have the ability to do stereo overheads or a few different miking techniques like Glenn Johns or something like that. I think the AT2020 is a quality microphone, so getting a second one makes sense. And again, it's only $100, so not a huge investment. Now, because this feels a little bit like cheating and losing value by giving you info on just the same microphone again, I want to present one more option to you where maybe you want to buy four microphones from the beginning. What could you do instead of an AT2020 pair? So as a substitute for the AT2020s, we could also look at a pair of pencil condensers, which I own a few pairs. I generally like the large diaphragm, but I have the pencil condensers on hand just with all the different things I own. The one that I own that I really like is a pair of Shure KSM 137s. These are a bit of an investment though, and another pair that I've been able to try in some different settings over the years that I really like and are very budget friendly would be from SE Electronics. They offer two different models, and obviously, as you might suspect, the SE8s coming in at $550 are going to be made of some higher quality components and sound a little richer and fuller, especially on drums. But these SE7s that they sell for $230 for a pair is a pretty amazing option for this price point. I really like SE Electronics. I've been able to collaborate with them a bit on this channel and try out some different microphones they offer, and everything has a very budget conscious price, but is surprisingly high quality and some of the best microphones I've played. So this would just be another option if you wanted to build a 4 microphone setup right away and invest in a pair of pencil condensers. So going to check out our cart, if we were to build on our first setup, we obviously have to buy a new interface to account for the number of channels we want to record with. And we're going to add the SM57 and a second AT2020. We're looking at, again, a little over $500. Now, the good news here is if you're not going to use your Scarlett anymore, you could probably sell it and offset this cost a little bit and get a bit of return to put towards this purchase. But for all of you that are looking to get a 4 mic setup right away, let's just do a quick cart for what that would be with the pencil condenser pair and these other microphones we've added now. So here's our cart with the 4-channel PreSonus interface, an SM57, the SEV kick, and the SE Electronics pencil condenser pair, and it comes in at close to $900. So this is a big investment, but this is why I'm a proponent for building your mic locker and your rig one part at a time, as you can afford to make these investments in quality gear that can last you a lifetime. So moving on to our 8-channel setup, or what I would refer to as a full drum miking rig, I want to start with an interface and go somewhere where you might not expect. Of course, if you like your Scarlett interface or your PreSonus interface and want to step up to their 8-channel options, they do have those available. They're affordable, they work really well. I don't have personal experience with them, but based off my experience with PreSonus and Focusrite's equipment, I can assure you, you would be very happy with making those investments. What I want to make you hip to is a product that I don't think gets enough love in the home recording world, and that is the Behringer XR18. So this is an 18-channel digital mixer, but really it has 16 XLR mic pre's, and this is mostly used in the live gigging world this model specifically, probably for local, smaller bar bands. I bought one of these maybe 10 or 12 years ago to use with my band to run live sound, and it's great because I can control it off an iPad remotely and not need to be right next to the mixer where I have tactile controls to do volume, EQ, and all those things. I was doing some studio work at a local recording studio in my town, and the engineer was talking to me about home recording and helping me with getting my drum sound. And he brought up the point of like, you own the XR18, why aren't you using that in your studio? These pre's sound good. They're not the best pre's you can get, but they sound good and clean. And you have 16 channels all ready to work together. And on top of that, you can have a home recording setup, save that as a preset, and then save your live setup, and you don't have to mess with adjusting everything back and forth like you would on an analog mixing board. This has a USB out, so it connects to your computer. It works the same way that your other interfaces would. And the other advantage is it has all these aux sends, which you could set up as headphone mixes for other band members. So what I love about this is not only can I do 8 to 10 microphones on the drums, I could set up channels for guitar, bass, vocals, horns, all live, and we can all have separate headphone mixes, but record that signal raw to Logic to mix later. This comes in at under $500 new. I think this is a killer investment. It's what I do most of my studio work with, and for a long time, I used it as my live option, but recently I've upgraded to an Allen & Heath equivalent to this that just has a few more features and is a bit more of an investment, coming in at $1,000. So now that we have all these channels at our disposal, and we've even future-proofed ourselves a little more with an interface that can accommodate us as we grow past 8 microphones, let's start to fill up that mic locker a little more. The next microphones we're going to invest in is something to close mic our toms with. I want to set it up as if we had 3 tom mics, but for a lot of you out there, you only have 2, and that would minimize how many microphones you need to get to close mic all of those. For me, the time-tested microphone for doing toms, mostly in a live setting, but that works great in a studio, is the Sennheiser E604. I really like this because they have a small form factor, and they don't take up a lot of space visually when I'm shooting videos or for using on a gig, where if they were larger, I might run into them with a stick, or it just looks clunky. So these are my favorite for both live and studio work. They also have clips that come with them, so you don't need to get microphone stands to set them all up, which is much more convenient than needing stands. Sweetwater has a few options here. If you want to buy a single E604, it's going to run you about $150, which means if you only needed 2, you're going to spend $300 on that. So why not go ahead and spend $340 and get a set of 3 of them? Because even if you only have 2 toms, you might be able to find another application for the third one. You could try to use it on the bottom of the snare. You could use it on another instrument in the band. So right now it says these have a $60 price drop, so don't take my word on the price today as filming this, but this is a great deal. And even at $400, you would still be saving $50 on the third one. So this gets us up to mics 5, 6, and 7. So we have room for 1 more microphone in an 8 microphone setup. For this last microphone that I'm going to add in today, there's a couple different approaches and options. Some of the things that are not being accounted for on the drum set would be the bottom snare, a hi-hat mic, a room mic, or a character mic like a crotch mic or something. If it were me and I was making advice to you and I was only able to give you one option, I would honestly tell you to buy another Shure SM57. It works great on the bottom snare. I've used it on hi-hat. It has a cool sound for the crotch mic. And if none of those interest you, you can find an application to use an extra Shure SM57 for. You could also invest in another AT2020 if you decided to go with the pencil condensers. So that would be a great option. That would be great for room mics. I've used them in the crotch position or on the outside of a bass drum to get a little bit of the woof in contrast to the tight, punchy inner kick drum sound. I'm going to go ahead and recommend a little bit nicer microphone because if you've built up to this level, maybe we want to move past the $100 mic. So the one that I'm going to go with is the Warm Audio 47 Junior. This is a large diaphragm condenser microphone, so in that same family as the AT2020, but it's a little bit of a step up. I have one here. It's a pretty large microphone, so if you're going to invest in this, invest in a nice mic stand to hold it and support it. But I think this would work good, especially for a room mic, or for me, what I've been using it for lately is mono overhead when I do stuff like jazz drums. I think it has a bit more warmth to it, no pun intended with the brand name, but this would be a quality investment primarily for studio work. This is not something I would bring out live. So looking at our cart now with upgrading our interface, adding tom mics, and adding this warm audio microphone, we're spending over $1,000. Now, granted, if you were buying all this equipment from the beginning, you'd be spending a lot more than $1,000. So let me quick price that out with our bass drum mic, snare drum mic, and the 2 overheads we would have already invested in. So with everything added into this setup, if you were going to start here, 3 tom mics, warm audio, 2 AT2020s for overheads, SM57, V-Kick, and the interface, we're looking at just over $1,500. I know this is an intimidating price tag, but to me, that is surprisingly low to invest in high quality microphones that can really last you a long time, and the interface. Now, I know that the idea of buying everything one at a time or piecing together different things may seem a bit overwhelming to people, so I also want to present you with just a contrasting option of investing in a microphone kit. I've had the opportunity to check out a variety of different microphone kits, whether that be me going into a church and using what they've bought, getting something sent out for me to try on this channel. And what I can say is you often get what you pay for. I think it's just better to buy one nice microphone and make do with that and learn how to make your recordings sound good from your playing and your tuning, rather than get 8 microphones that are pretty inferior that you have to use a lot of effects and processing to get to sound good on a recording. So I just did a quick search here on Sweetwater for drum mic kits, and there's a variety of different options that come up. Again, here's that Behringer option, just over $100. If you're in a pinch and you need to get something to do a live show, this could work, but I think you're better off making an investment you'll be happy with 5 years from now as you really grow as a musician. Shure has a set here with their Beta 52 and 3 SM57s, so you could use those on toms. I generally don't like to use those on toms because they take up a lot of space, but you're never going to go wrong with having a few extra 57s around. Audix has this DP7 pack. I've used this on plenty of gigs and house kits. These are great microphones. It comes in at around $1,200, but it does have 3 condenser microphones, which allows you to do stereo overheads and something like a hi-hat mic or another effect mic. As we keep going here, there's a few different options, but the one that is kind of my favorite would be from SE Electronics. This setup here by SE Electronics is called their Club Package, and it comes in just under $1,000 and includes the SE7 condenser pair, a V7X, which is a really great snare drum mic that I have not personally tried, but so many people I know rave about it that I'd feel confident sending that to you to purchase. Has the V-Kick, and then it has 2 of their V-Beats, which is like a tom snare drum mic. So if you have 3 toms, this might not work for you, but this is a great option. And they have another option where you do get a 3rd tom mic, and that comes in at just under $1,200. And in this one as well, you also get a step up to the SE8 pencil condensers, which is a little bit higher quality microphone, and you can expect some richer and fuller sounds there. I think this is a great option, and when you think about what it costs to invest in all those microphones I sent you individually, it's kind of a horse apiece, almost the same price. I think my setup may be even a little cheaper since we have an extra mic, but I do really like this, and I think this is a worthwhile investment if maybe you don't want to mess around with picking out mics one at a time. So to quickly wrap this video up, I think there's a lot of options out there at the 2 mic setup, 4 mic setup, and a full mic setup that are really great investments, and there are ways to strategically purchase these microphones where you can keep building and enhancing your options for home recording. There are a few things we didn't account for. You do need a laptop to be able to record music, or some other way. You need recording software. Some of these interfaces come with recording software included, or at least a trial membership. you need to buy microphone stands and mic cables. Some of these options I laid out have clips, which would avoid you from needing to buy microphone stands for everything, but this is a step that people forget about, and they end up just buying the cheapest mic cables they can find and the cheapest stands, and end up being disappointed when those parts fail or fall over. So think about that as you make this investment and factor it into your budget. I'll have affiliate links to Sweetwater down in the description of this video, and I really recommend shopping with them. They have great customer service, the best availability, the best price, and most importantly, everything gets to you really fast. If you have questions about any of the equipment I've recommended or comments about your experience with them or other alternatives, I'd love to hear about it, so let's make the comment section of this video a discussion thread to help each other out. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you watching, and until next time, thanks.